Hi guys, and welcome to Married with Clix. Tonight we are going to give you guys the rundown on our month 2 of the War of Light series. So this happened just this past Saturday for us, and with our venue we are set up to do 2 boosters of the Wave 1 of War of Light. And we're also allowed to use the power battery and any constructs that we have been given through participation or through the scenario pack. So we're allowed to use the green ring or the shield. The crossbow was given out last month, and this month we received the decoy. So we could use all of those together. So for my 2 packs, one of the packs I got was a full Sinestro Core pack, which was actually really interesting to see. I am never lucky enough to actually get these pre-packaged packs like this, so it was actually pretty cool. It was the Sinestro Core Recruit, Rotmat Rue, Lissadrak, Carousel, and Mongol, along with the yellow Sinestro Core Ring. My other pack consisted of Orange Sade, White Kyle Rayner, Orisa, another Mongol, and another Rotmat Rue. So I did have a fair amount of options to go with, especially with getting the full Sinestro Core pack, but it didn't give me the kind of options that I felt comfortable with. The problem with, I'm not very good at tent pulling, so I didn't, Sade is, I think, over 200 points on her own. And White Kyle Rayner is pretty heavy as well, and of course the Mongol's 165 points. And I managed to run him the first month, but I couldn't get a good combination this month. The best I could have done was Mongol, the Recruit, and Rotmat Rue, but that only left me just under 20 points for putting in the battery, and I wanted to try and have the full stock of the battery for this tournament. So instead I went with a little less power, and I went with Carousel with her pack, Lissadrak, Rotmat Rue, and instead of the green ring on the power battery, I went with the yellow ring. Since my entire team has the Sinestro Core keyword, every time I gave someone a construct, they were getting +1 to all of their stats except for damage. So my first round, I went up against one of the older guys at our venue, Patrick, and his team consisted of a Green Lantern Recruit, Boudica, and Swamp Thing, as well as a full Green Lantern power battery. And so his Boudica and Recruit were getting +1 to everything, and he had misinterpreted the ring at one point where he was giving them willpower as well. That got straightened out without really any incident. But I was positioning myself. My team has no real mobility. Rotmat Rue starts out with phasing teleport. Carousel starts out with sidestep, and so does Lissadrak, and even when I drop the pack, they only have sidestep. So my biggest mobility on my team was Rotmat Rue's telekinesis, which my opponent didn't actually notice right off the bat. He was asking if I had any moving attacks, which no, I had no hypersonic, I had no charge, and I had no running shot. So he had come out pretty far, rather boldly against my team, since all I had showing really was sidestep, without taking into account the telekinesis. So I had gotten myself into a position where I had the pack out next to Rotmat Rue, and he TK'd him right into the fray, and then he sidestepped into the Green Lantern Recruit and demolished him with his Blaze Claws, his triple attack Blaze Claws. Now, if my opponent had been paying attention to the power battery, I technically couldn't have done all of my Blaze Claws because he did have matching power battery things to stop the free actions. I didn't notice that either. I actually just noticed about that right now as I was talking about the yellow ring. on my power battery. That is my bad too, because I should know better, because I actually know how to use this thing. So his Green Lantern recruit was gone. And he moved his Swamp Thing forward to do his special attack where he dropped and placed hindering terrain underneath my character where he could make a close combat attack through that. And unfortunately, he had to come all the way to my team and placed it under Rotmat Rue, which only gave him 2 squares to move away. So he didn't get a safe enough distance away from me. And so he attacked and ended up missing because Lystadrak also offers prob once any friendly character is being attacked. Anyone that shares a keyword with her, she has prob no matter where they are on the board, which is one of the reasons why I wanted her on my team. So Swamp Thing got himself into a bad position where Carousel sidestepped forward and then used the crossbow that I had on her for ranged combat expert and did a buttload of damage to Swamp Thing. And then the pack ended up coming around and dealing a lot more damage to Swamp Thing. And Swamp Thing was very, very hurt when he started to make his retreat. As Swamp Thing started to retreat, Boudica was still there, and she got really heavily damaged by the pack as well.
Wow. Big old cheater.
Yeah, this is horrible. I'm so sorry, guys. I just realized how bad this actually was, because I think only 1 or 2, with the high defenses and the pack only having 10 attack, only 1 or 2 of my attacks landed. But even still, because the pack is listed as 3 attacks as free actions, with the full power battery, full colored power battery, green battery, you can't do that many free actions. So I'm going to tell you guys all about how I cheated through my first game. So anyways, Swamp Thing started to retreat, then Boudica, really hurt, started to retreat, and went all the way back to his own power battery, where he was sitting still on support. And I had gotten Swamp Thing down to his stop click, which unfortunately has a 19 defense, which I couldn't get around, and regeneration. So he sat back, regened, supported, pretty much bringing Swamp Thing back up to full, ended up doing support on Boudica as well, and I just sat back and came back to my own power battery and my own starting area and just sat there. Not really doing much, because at this point I had killed a Green Lantern recruit, and so I was up 50 points, and he hadn't touched my team, where nothing had even gotten hurt. So basically he spent a lot of turns just sidestepping around and passing while he sat there and supported and healed his characters right back up. It was getting towards, we had like 10 minutes left in the round, where a lot of it had done nothing. So he started to come forward a little bit with Boudica, and I used Rotmat Rue to TK the pack back out, kill her. He started to come up a little bit with Swamp Thing. I managed to do a little bit of damage with Carousel and the ranged combat expert before time was called, and I ended up with that round at 125 points. Now I wouldn't have been, if I had been playing with the power battery properly, I wouldn't have done, I just basically wouldn't have killed the figures as quickly because of getting the 2 attacks or 3 attacks from the pack. Would have only done 1 attack at a time, still would have been doing the same. Stop shaking your head at me. Anyways, round 1, very long, very frustrating round that in the end, who knows if I would have actually won that if the pack wasn't doing their triple attack. So second round, I ended up having 1 win with 125 points, which put me at the bottom of the winners. And
guess who else was there?
Just so happens that the next person in line with the lowest amount of points for the winners was Jason. So my second round, I got to go up against Jason's wonderful team of the Weaponer of Cord, and a Blue Lantern recruit. So...
There's more to the team, but that you'll have to wait till Jason's story. Get back here!
There wasn't too much I could do about this, really. Weaponer of Cord can move 12 squares at a full charge or for a running shot or whatever he wants to do and just obliterate your face. I wasn't doing, like, even though Carousel and Rotmatru are top dialed with 3 damage, as well as Perplex that only goes down, there wasn't much I was able to do against the Courier's Impervious because I had no outwit. And by the time my power battery got the outwit, I didn't have the range to be able to get to him. The frustrating part on that. So, basically, I had moved forward just with sidestepping. He came in, managed to kill Carousel in one shot. I tried to get around. He basically picked me off, and I think we were done within 15 minutes, if not less, give or take. It was bad. It was a bad one. So I got no points out of that. Which brings me up to my third round, with having 1 and 1, very low points. Went up against a buddy of ours, Chris, who's actually the first person that I ever, outside of my brother, played Heroclix with at a venue. It was the whole reason why I met Jason. And he was playing... Oh god, what was he playing? He was playing Mongol with Sister Cersei and a Orange Lantern Construct. The little globule guy.
Slimer.
The Orange Slimer. So he had a very similar team in tactic and strategy that Jason did, where he's got a big guy that, with the help of Sister Cersei, TKing up, big charge range, he can cover half the map in basically 1 turn. And my guys are just sidestepping around. So I positioned, and he came in, based my Carousel, and managed to ultra heavy object just obliterate her face. So that meant my pack was gone too, who was my biggest attacker as well in this game. So I switched focus from, I put Lysidrak forward to tie up the Mongol, and I used Rotmatru to basically get into position, and I managed to kill the Orange Construct, miss attack after attack after attack on Mongol, and basically every time Mongol was able to attack, he took out one of my guys. So it was another short-lived, hard-fought, just obliteration. So overall, my games weren't great this time around. My team was not the strongest. I definitely could have built it better, focusing either around the Mongol or even the White Lantern Kyle, because I forgot, it wasn't until the 3rd round when I was helping out another player, was that I totally forgot that Kyle can just put himself on whatever Lantern team you want him to be on, and he gets that keyword, which would have given him all the +1s from the yellow ring that I was giving to everybody else on my team. But I was afraid of temp pulling with him, and I don't like temp pulling. So unfortunately, this is a very bad turnaround for me. In the end, I did get the 5 event points, which puts me at 11 for the series so far. I'm definitely not in first at our venue, but I'm in a decent enough position that some of the guys that were actually ahead of me that got 7 points in our first month didn't actually show up for our second month, so that's put me ahead of them at least. So we'll see how that goes. It wasn't the best turnout for me, especially now that I have discovered and told all of you guys that I ended up incidentally cheating in my first game, which was my only win.
Month 2. Guess who I pulled again? The Weapon of Cord. Though this month a lot of people played bigger teams, especially the ones that I played against. We'll get into that in a minute. I didn't pull Sister Cersei this time, so I ended up using a Blue Lantern Recruit. The rest of my pack was a little incidental once you consider the fact that I had a Blue Lantern Recruit and a Weapon of Cord. I had some Yellow Lantern guys. I had played all my Blue Lanterns. I think I pulled one of the Green Lantern characters, but ultimately when it came down to it, the team that made the most sense to build, and I even pulled a Mongol. The team that made the most sense to run with was the Weaponer of Cord and the Blue Lantern Recruit. Blue Lantern Recruit, of course, coming with Telekinesis, that Upwards, Perplex, and Enhancement is always a good bonus. Originally, I'd say about 2 minutes before realizing that we had time, I was going to play this team with the Green Lantern Ring and just see how I did with that.
Oh, I didn't cheat against you. Good.
But then I realized I pulled both a White Lantern Ring and an Orange Lantern Ring, and it was about that moment where I realized somebody else had been playing a Sinestro Corps ring on them, on the Weaponer. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I wish I had a Sinestro Corps. Wait, he's a White Lantern! Suffice to say, my Weaponer of Cord ended up getting a White Lantern Ring, which gave him +1 to all his stats, except for damage. But that's fine, he does plenty. And, of course, my Blue Lantern Recruit would be harder to kill. That should have come up once, but I was frustrated in that game anyway. So, let's get into it. Round 1 was the game I don't think I should have won. Or the game I probably shouldn't have been losing as badly as I was. I was up against an old friend of ours, used to play, is now currently a mule for one of our friends. His name is Rob. He's also my anti-luck chamber. Every time I've played against him in the past, my dice rolls would turn to crap and would make my team look terrible. Very little changed. The game started off well enough. I came in with a big old attack with Weaponer of Cord. But because we used the indoor portion of the month 2 map, the one with 2 stairwells and the gigantic horseshoe of elevated terrain around the outside of the map, I ended up having to take the long way around. As well, I didn't pay attention to something I noticed in the second round, but I always have first round jitters in every tournament. So I always screw something big time up with regards to a map or something about a character. Anyway, long story short, I gave my Weaponer Psychic Blast and did Graph Torrent 5 bloody big damage. Probably should have dealt 6, to be honest, if I was smart. Instead, I went greedy and went for the extra attack because he was using a Green Lantern power battery on his team, and because he was using Arisia and Graph Torrent, he got +1 to everything, which was obnoxious. So after hitting Graph Torrent very hard and him supporting up his Graph Torrent, the game became a big slog of back and forth damage being dealt. I decided, at one point I had Precision Strike on my Weaponer of Cord, which I used to finish off Arisia very swiftly. But then it became back and forth. I'm trying to attack Graph Torrent. Graph Torrent's trying to attack me. I'm trying to attack Graph Torrent. He's trying to attack me. I hit my stop click about 5 times that entire game. But of course, he always seemed to be hitting his second action token when that happened. So I had the next turn to regenerate. Also, my Blue Lantern Recruit had the crossbow and was trying to do his own shots as well. Now, when it came down to it, it got into a desperation point where time was running out. My Blue Lantern Recruit was dead, but so was his Arisia, so I had to back off big time. So I took my Weaponer and I ran. I ran as fast as I could, and as far as I could, back towards my power battery. I got to a point where he had his Graph Torrent cleared, and my Weaponer of Cord looking down the barrel of a Graph Torrent Green Lantern Ring. Well, no, not cleared. He was about to take him. He had 1 action token on him. So I managed to put up a barrier, which came from my power battery, which I forgot it had barrier. Which gave me a turn to regenerate my Weaponer of Cord up 4 clicks because I managed to roll a lucky 6 on my regeneration, and I was back in the game very swiftly back in the game. I was able to turn this around and smash Graf Torn. A few things aided me in the game. One, my opponent not realizing he had a wit on Graf Torn in a couple occasions. But that's what it comes down to a lot of times, is if you're not paying attention to what your characters have and can use, that can cost you a lot of games. So it comes with experience versus time, right? I mean, if I would have played Rob in the second round, I probably would have been a different outcome. But I also probably, like I did with Amber in the second game, which I'll explain in a minute, would have turned out differently anyway. So there's that. So when it came down to it, I managed to get him down just barely. But Rob's team was very small. I only scored 271 points off of him, which put me in the lower end of the winner's bracket. And as Amber already explained in the video, I had to play against her in the second round.
Boo!
So that consisted of discovering the actual width of the indoor map. I gave my weaponer of Cord the shield. That's giving him energy shield. I TK'd him from my starting area across to the side portion of the elevated terrain and used that positioning with Psychic Blast to smash something on Amber's team, which she subsequently supported, which I gotta stop hitting things that are sitting right next to the bloody power ring.
I forgot about
what
that.
it came down to is Amber's team didn't have deep dials, and my damage being dealt by my weapon of Cord was deep. So once I had Lissa Drax down, I did a full movement charge with super strength and an ultra heavy object on Carousel, and then it was just a matter of chasing down Rotmat Root, which happened very swiftly.
Our retellings are totally different. I completely forgot what happened during our game.
It was very quick, I can imagine. So, that said, I managed to wipe Amber's team, which put me back in decent pointage, but I was still the lowest end of the 2-0s. So, I enter the third round against a friend of ours, Kevin. He played a Carousel, a recruit of some sorts. It was Carousel. It was a 135 point Sinestro Weaponer of Cord, and something that didn't last very long. Basically, what I did was because one of the things I ran into in the first month was I got lucky and got paired up against a lot of tentpole teams, guys that were relying on one character to do 100% of their damage with an extra character to fill up some extra points. This month, I played against more teams that had more useful characters, which meant I had to be a little bit more cagey about the way I was playing my Weapon of Cord. So I had to keep them at a significant distance, so I was using Psychic Blast this time with the full movement running shot and targeting things at a safe distance, because I would now have a 9 range, courtesy of the White Lantern Ring. So having to play my Weaponer differently, I approached the game that way, and I Psychic Blasted things. Like, the game against Kevin went very quickly still. Kevin has been a little bit unlucky with his rolls of late, and he's actually started recording them. So anytime he's rolled his dice with a 7 or higher, which generally is 7 is the average number that you get on 2 dice rolls, goes down a little further, but in any case. So anytime he rolls a 7 or higher, he puts a little 1 or a 0 if his dice roll doesn't. He rolled the dice 4 times that game. And against the 21 defense and the Weaponer of Cord at range, you can probably imagine that going so well for him. So I ended up scoring 280 points on that one. So at best, I was sitting at 3rd place if the top 3, like the other 2 games that were going on that were at 2-0, ended up clearing out one another. One did, and that ended up being the guy that won, named Spencer. Congratulations, Spencer, you won the tournament. I still got a 3-0, which puts me at 7 points for the week. But the other game that was at 2-0 went to time. Not everything died. What does that mean? I got 2nd place. I got our Arquillo. So I'm 2 for 2 now. I'm standing at an undefeated streak for War of Light period. Sorry, not period. At the Comic Book Warehouse. I've played at another venue and I got my face stomped in. But I was at that other venue more or less just to get the extra packs. And unfortunately I can't go there for month 2 because some work situations. All in all, my team turned out all right, despite a very shifty first game. Which also, because of the heat in the room during the first game, I got a little bit testy during. It's very, very important to try to keep it cool as best you can. In that game, I thought I'd lost several times, so I got a little tossy with my poker chips. The poker chips, of course, that I use for action tokens, and my dice just kind of got thrown across the table at times. Because, on honest case, every time I had done it, I had pretty much written myself off of the game. I thought I was going to lose, and dice actually went in my favor against Rob this time, so I actually managed to survive a couple of shots I thought I wasn't going to live through. But as a whole, I'm still going. Going into month 3, looking forward to the new stuff. From what I've seen, there's nothing like the Weapon of Chord that sticks out. I might be wrong. There might be something along the lines of the Weapon of Chord that we haven't seen yet. There's some figures that could potentially be as strong as the Weapon of Chord. I personally think it's going to be Aquaman. Because sharks...
You just want it to be Aquaman.
I want it to be Aquaman so bad. I want shark blades, claws, and fangs to just kill things. But yeah, all in all, very happy with the way my team did. Can't complain when a weaponer team does well. And yeah, that's that for our month 2 recap of War of Light.